Hi, Tonya.
Hello.
We haven't recorded a Biz Bestie Chat in a long time.
We haven't.
You
It's
know,
been so long.
but we talk every day. In the world of Biz Bestie friendship, we
We do.
almost every day. Both of us have been really slammed in our
Mm.
businesses for this first half of the year, and well, now we're in the month of July, so I would say like most of June, it got a little spotty for a minute. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And I do know for a fact that there are some people who have followed us for the Biz Bestie like friendship dynamic. And I think it's worth saying that just because you don't leave messages as frequently as you used to for a period of time does not mean that the Biz Bestie-ness is dying off. Like,
No, it does not mean that the biz bestiness is dying off. It sometimes just means that you cannot catch your breath
and that,
long enough to actually say words.
yeah, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
much. There was more than once where I like came in to listen to something that you left and you literally were like, I would love your input on this. And then I was like, I gotta come back. And I'd be like, oh, shit, 2 days went by. I'm so sorry.
Well, remember the one day where I was like, I think it's been 18 months since I've talked to you. It'd been a week, but
Like one of these days I'll be able to tell you what's going on. Um, which is exciting, I think, for both of us.
yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share any updates?
Yes, I have them next to me. I have the keys to my studio and they are attached to the gay panic fidget toy so that when I'm panicking, I can just hit the button. You did that on purpose.
I love it.
Yeah, I just got the keys yesterday and right before the holiday weekend and it was kind of surreal. It was so cool to like walk in and be like,
Hmm.
I'm not being shown this space. I now lease this space and I can come here
You,
whenever I want.
yeah, you are now the proud owner of a production studio.
It's very exciting. And I love the space. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. The lease negotiations took way longer than I expected. I was so glad to have a friend on the other end to give
Hmm.
updates to and just to digest things that I was not digesting with, say, my mentor or my lawyer
Hmm.
or my bookkeeper.
Yeah,
And it wasn't just about like the business end of can we get to the point of signing already? Like, can we just
right.
and it took a lot longer than I anticipated. I mean, in a fortunate way, it's nice because
Hmm.
the location that it's in is in an old historic building and they have a lot of offices available. But like, when you really are like, that's my office, that's the one, and you're like, oh, please, nobody come and use that. And
Right.
and I knew that wouldn't happen, but you're just like, I think I need to get the keys, like I need to get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit already, right? That not that you weren't a real business owner before, right? I mean, you and me have been at this. We're the official internet dinosaurs, right? Like we've been at this a long time, but anybody can say they've been at it as long as us. Anybody can slap up a website
Mhm.
that looks better than your website or my website, right?
Because we're
If you've
too
got the
busy to
money.
update our
But
website.
I mean, if you've got the money, right, you hire a copywriter, you can hire a video photographer, hire top line website, developer and designer, and they can look as experienced, if not more experienced than us. But when you have a brick and mortar space, nobody can deny that you have a real life business. And as far as viability goes, I mean, we all know that profitability is easy to hide, right, for the business owner, depending on what your resources are. But every day that they try that door and it is unlocked and they can walk in, further validates the fact that not only are you a business owner, but you are a profitable business owner who can pay their bills,
Yeah.
and there is a belief of stability.
Hmm. I
And so, congratulations.
Thank you. Well, it was so interesting going through this process, having you in my corner, cheering me on. And we had so many good discussions about like the tangible quality of things right now. And
Mm-hmm.
that has been fascinating. I know we kind of wanted to talk about that and like bring it into our YouTube public space.
Yeah.
Just because like it's such a valuable thing for other
Mm-hmm.
people to think about because we are in a difficult day and age when it comes to marketing. Economics is a little weird right now. The psychology of
Mm-hmm.
buyers is a little wonky right now. And you and I both regularly acknowledge it does not mean that people are not making money or that things are not happening. Plenty of people are making money. Plenty of things are happening.
Yeah.
But like there is a very key differential that has been showing up because you and I've both been in the coaching space a very long time. And in this like less tangible service provider space. Like it's one thing to
Mm-hmm.
provide a service and be like, I write copy or I make graphics design or whatever, and you get like a product that comes out of that. It's there's a difference between that, but
Yeah.
as opposed to coaching where it's like, I'm going to help you transform. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, where does that go? You know, what happens with it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you pointed out, like, you're getting a brick and mortar, like, it's like there's like a thing. You can see it, you can touch it. It human comprehension wise, you can comprehend it. And
Mm-hmm.
like either you come in and you record and you get the thing you asked for, or you don't. It's not like it's not, a hope, a wish, and a dream and a prayer about aspirations to be a podcaster. It's like, no, you have a podcast.
Right.
And
And I was just thinking, also, people don't question your overhead when you have a brick and mortar building, right? People understand.
mhm,
You've got to pay to keep the lights on. You've got to pay for the space. You've got to, that water cooler in the corner there is not free. But, for those of us who are online business owners, and speaking for myself, um, very rarely do any of my clients or even potential clients ever stop to think about the overhead I have with this business. They assume that if they pay me $5, all $5 go to my personal bank account,
yeah. And
right?
it's so
And
much
that's not because they're bad people. It's just because I work from home and, well, I would have to pay my home bills regardless, right? So they don't associate that with overhead that my business has to cover.
yeah, yeah. It is. It is such an interesting thing to have evolved into. And I think like all the things you and I have been clocking and tracking in our industry spaces, it's interesting how like the introduction of a brick and mortar physical space has
Mm-hmm.
clarified so many of these things we've been trying to
Right.
analyze, which is you and I always find
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to track. But yeah, I do think you and I've been talking about how we've noticed a trend. I've been living it, you've been living it, this sort of like return to connection within the local community, local contacts, local business. Not that you don't have your virtual side of your business where you're reaching people worldwide, but that old, like from 10 years ago, there was this real
Mm-hmm.
huge hard shift into, take your clients internationally and all the things. And you and I have worked with international, we've worked with businesses that have
Mm-hmm.
lots of international
Yeah.
reach, and that's how we met. And like it is so complicated. And yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know that at this time I would go back to doing it as hard and heavy as I did previously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying my local space.
Yeah. Well, and you have concentrated, and I would even say invested in local business community for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
that's the other thing, right? It's so easy for somebody to watch our Biz Besties chat and be like, oh, Mary started investing in her local community, and 3 months later, opened her own studio, right? Because there were been years long period of time where you said, you know what? It's not that I'm against online networking, but I have an amazing business community here in my local, go all in being in it, getting to know the people in it and building relationships that way. And I want to see what happens. Because I remember It's before you launched your podcast where you were like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe my online relationships are my best possible relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
And back then, I don't recall that podcast studio was even on the radar, but here we are.
No, that was the most unexpected outcome. I was like, I really thought that the mission was podcasting and
Mm-hmm.
and it was discovering there's a massive gap in my local market. And if there's one thing I know how to run, it's
Yeah.
production. And
Right.
yeah, the things that are so close to you and you forget and you don't see it until it's like right in front of your face. And
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love your point. It's going to be such a good segue, Tonya, when you're like, oh, just like, because it's so easy to watch something from the outside and then time shrinks
Mm-hmm.
in hindsight where you're like, oh my gosh, look,
Oh,
she
yeah.
did this thing. And it's like, it's kind of like in motion for like a really long time. Um, and you and I have noticed this, the cycle has gone around yet again. In
Only thing constant is change.
my God, people's heads are back up their asses again about what it really takes to do
Mm-hmm.
something. We've been having conversations about capacity and
Yeah.
about the hours it actually takes to do things. I think the most favorite of our really recent chat threads has been around the need for uninterrupted hours of deep work and
Mm-hmm.
that you can't do your business in these little 15-minute stolen increments. And
No.
so when you do still do what I would say is new modern economy, we work from home a lot more, but there's also a lot of life demands. But and you have good days and you have bad days. You have days where you can like really get to
Mm-hmm.
your work, and you have days where you can't. Like that happens for all of us. And but if like every day is a day that you can't get into your work,
Mm-hmm.
like Houston, we've got a problem.
Well, Houston, we have a problem. And I think the biggest problem is when we don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I see a lot happening is it's like, oh, like nothing happened this week. I was trying to do this and this. And it's like, okay, but how much have you worked on your business this week?
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. Like this is a week, for instance, I had 3 half-day events. So pretty much out of the office on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? Could I respond to like a quick message here and there? Sure, in between. So it would have been really easy to say, gosh, I have worked my tail off this week. You know what? I'm just going to take Thursday and Friday off. I'm
Mm,
going to have a long weekend.
mm,
But that wouldn't benefit the clients that I serve directly, right? Because those clients knew that I'd be out of the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
mm,
but they have things that they need me to take care of, right? The nature of the work that we do together.
yeah.
And like I didn't have the luxury of taking Thursday and Friday off.
I really liked the point that you were making about like the luxury of, because you and I have been talking about this a lot, where it's like
Hmm.
I don't have the luxury of, oh, I think I need a break right now. It's like, yes, self-care, yes,
Yeah.
care, yes to like the things you need to live a life. But the luxury of, oh, I just feel so overloaded right now. I don't know that I can continue working on this project. I need to
Hmm.
take a break from it. And it's like, no, like I need to deliver this to my client
Hmm.
because that is what is keeping the roof over my head and putting food on the table. And you and I've had this conversation multiple times in previous Biz Bestie chats. But I'm noticing
Hmm.
like a divide. It's sort of like there seem to be people who are like, I gotta work,
Hmm.
I gotta get it done. And it's not hustle culture. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, this is full 40-hour work week work. And
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
there's another crowd where it's like, I don't know that they have ever had to be fully responsible. So it's not an awareness field. I told you about how I got a message from
Hmm.
somebody recently who left honestly, I was so glad to hear this message where she said, I never understood why you worked so much before. And she, for the
Mm,
first time, is actually working full time in her business.
yeah.
Like, oh, this is what it is to be booked, to have people
Hmm.
paying you, to be paying your own bills and like feeling more secure. And it's like, this is the volume, like this is what it is. And
Hmm.
it's not overwork and it's not hustling. It's just like, no, your plate is like you are
Right.
full. Instead of being like,
Hmm.
I wonder when I'm going to get some people coming to pay me. It's like, no, like I have people paying me. And
Right.
and it really made me wonder, and then we were chatting about it in our WhatsApp conversations. um how many people just don't have that frame of reference, and I think
Hmm.
some of them see people like you or me and they think, oh my god, they're like workaholics and they work all the time, and we're like, actually no, I don't work all the time.
Hmm.
Like, you have been doing so much with your family lately, which is so cool to watch. Um and it's like but there's a difference between like not being booked and being booked.
Right. Right. Well, and I think there are some people who have never been fully booked in the history of their business.
Yeah.
And so having not been fully booked gives you a different perspective on work-life balance. It gives you a different perspective on like client fulfillment.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to somebody a few months ago, fairly new in business, and we were collaborating on a project together. And I had a May 1 deadline for my piece of it. And I needed them to do their piece before I could do my piece. Like I could finish my piece. There was only so much I could do until they were done. And so, we got on a call and I said, okay, so I've got a May 1 deadline for this. So when are you going to have your piece done? Like, what is your contracted agreement with the client? And she was like, well, I don't do deadlines. You what?
What is that?
Because I'm like, okay, like this is automatically a problem if I have a hard deadline and this person who I'm relying on has no deadline.
Yeah.
And so
How
I'm
do
like,
you
wait,
how do you work with no deadline?
well, and I was like, well, wait. And so then they explained their flow, right? She explained her flow. She says, well, my work is dependent on the client doing their part.
Yeah.
And so the project can't finish until the client turns their stuff in. I said, yeah, but what do you do when the client drags their feet? Because the client always will.
Mm.
Like part of the deadline is saying, hey, if you want to get this done by May 1, I need this by June 15th. I need this by June 5th. And she said, well, yeah, usually we get to a certain part and then it's going to take them a little bit of time. It's hard. And so then they just kind of work in their end and I, set them aside and I work on, whatever's happening in the moment. And then when they're ready, they'll come back. And I said, so what happens when they come back, but you're fully
I
booked?
was
Because
just
that has
thinking,
happened to me
yeah, I
because I
was
have
just
done
like
that,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, she just looked at me and I said, oh, you haven't been fully booked yet, have you? And she's like, well, I guess not. And I said, oh, that's like, hey, it takes a lot of us a long time to get fully booked. I said, but the thing is once you get fully booked, what you'll realize is you'll know your capacity. You'll know I can take on, I can juggle 5 projects at once in a given month. I can onboard 2 clients. I can have 2 clients in the middle of fulfillment and I can offboard 1 client.
Hmm.
Right. That's a dynamic that I can handle. And you're just like chugging along. Life is good. And then those 2 clients that you thought were going to be a 3-month fulfillment are stretching into a 5-month fulfillment. And now the problem is you're juggling 3 clients or 4 clients in the middle of fulfillment.
Hmm.
And then you're trying to onboard people and you don't know
Sure.
what's the issue is. And the issue is you plan for these projects to be 3 months long. They're dragging on how many clients you now have to juggle month 7, month 8 to meet your goals. So either you say, okay, I'm going to take an income hit work, or you just miss your deadlines. Like you just don't deliver on time. And in any case, that's not good for your business, not good for you. You're not operating at your best. The client's not getting what they feel like they paid for. And you're like totally sleep deprived. It's not cool. But she had never thought of that because she'd never had that experience.
Yeah.
I had that experience in 2020 during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not fun for me. At first when COVID hit and people were like, I want to push pause on my project
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what's going on. Yeah, no problem. But when they were calling in their markers a year later, which I told them they could, I said, you have up to a year to restart.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, they may never restart. I need to just build my business and work to the level I need to. So when they called in their markers a year later, I found myself backlogged like it took 7 months before I could take on a new client again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like when you become fully booked, you then start adjusting your expectations with your clients, which
Mhm.
because we have all done this before,
Mhm.
what you just described. And then you learn to tell your clients like, yeah, you could totally like an unprecedented time happened
Mhm.
yet again. It's like
Yeah.
you can push that for a year, whatever, but here are the stipulations. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you get to cut the line because you got out of line. But I will not remove you from the room. Like you're not booted
Mhm.
out of the whole thing, but just know that it doesn't mean that I will instantly jump for you. It does not mean that I can instantly get everything done for you. But you do end up backlogged and
Mhm.
and it's and I still believe you and I have become such good biz besties because we both have worked to maximum capacity and then
Yeah.
some know what it is and when you find somebody else who's had that experience you can process these things with them because you're like what it's like and I know that there's a lot of people who are seeking that and it's
Mhm.
like but this is the reality is like
Mhm.
you will go through you will find the boundaries of the room you will overstretch and you will figure that out and you'll get through it and but if you have never come close to that yet you
Mhm.
really don't know what full capacity is for you yet
Yeah.
and you can't base somebody else's feelings or even possibly a trauma response on being overworked with your own
Mhm.
because we all have different capacities and you and I are both well aware that we are unusually high capacity people
Yes.
in our work. So we do more than the average. And I think like for people looking for the biz bestie relationship, it's like you've got to like get to know somebody and figure out like how much do we match on these
Mhm.
things because when you need somebody in the room with you to help you work through a problem like if you're talking to somebody who has super low capacity and you're super high capacity you can't meet for that reflection and that insight I see people looking for that
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that make our dynamic work. One is that we have done this long enough that we've been through so many cycles.
Mm.
So, like when push comes to shove, both of us will have a like, this has happened before, hasn't it? And you'll be like, yeah, Tanya, you know what? This was 2014 blogger days. That's what this is. It's a different medium, right? It's not blogs this time, it's podcasts. And I'll be like, oh, you're right. This was what was going on in the blogosphere in 2014. All right. You point that out, and then I'm like, okay, so what worked then? Okay, can that apply here? Good, off to the races. But when you haven't been in business long enough to see a full cycle, when you haven't been in business long enough to see your idols, like your business idols, have hardship, it's hard to have an accurate perspective on what you should expect of yourself, what you should expect from your clients, what you should expect from your business, and what it takes to get those expectations met.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't seen enough people pull the same shtick for they couch the pivots. We were just talking about this before we hit record. How many people are changing, pivoting? In the earlier trend immediately was
Mm-hmm.
going back to what built them the business in the first place. So they downsized their
Mm-hmm.
teams, they went back to the origins. you cannot just wash, rinse, repeat the old stuff that doesn't apply anymore. So a lot of them have discovered that, and now they're shifting into like these
Hmm.
things, and like evolution is going to happen. I mean, I'm going through evolution right now. Like it's going to happen. But we were both remarking about how some of these businesses like are really in it. And if you've seen them long enough, you can tell the difference. They are not at their peak right now. They are in the goo, just like you, just like everybody else. And then you can take them off the pedestal and you can be like, do I want to buy their program, or do I want to like go with this other person or this other place that I think I might get better attention from or something, instead of just because it's a big name.
So, what I hope people realize, though I can't control other people's realizations, is that the high ticket program is not necessarily the best program, and it's not necessarily going to get you your results any faster than lower priced offers.
Yes. I want it on t-shirts. I want it on hats.
Right? Well, it's like I was talking to a good friend, and they had bought a product. Like we frequently buy products from the same service provider.
Mhm.
And they reached out to me. They said, "Hey, have you seen the new offer?" And I'm like, "No." And they said, "Well, I was just curious, like what you thought of it." And I said, I'm just not really in a place to buy right now. Like I don't need new knowledge. If I was to buy anything, I would be buying a service, right? I'd be buying implementation support on some of the things that I'm trying to offload. And they said, "Well, the reason I'm asking is because it's 297." And I said, "Oh, okay." And they're like, and I find that their offers are kind of all over the place. Like I've paid 497 for an offer from them that quite honestly wasn't nearly as good as some of their, $40, $50 offers. And so like I don't mind paying 297 for this offer if it's 297 value, but I don't want it to be one of those where I'm like, this feels like a lead magnet.
Mhm.
Right. And so, but part of that is being in business long enough to get to know your service providers, right? Like now I know that, if I want anything that's image based, right? If I want to learn how to rock Canva or anything like that, I go and see what this couple of people have to offer.
Yeah.
If I want system support, I do not go to those people, even though they sell system support too,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not where they really provide value.
Mm-mm.
And so I think that's the other thing. Back to just because it's the most expensive thing you've ever seen or the most expensive investment you've ever made does not mean it's actually going to be the best investment you've ever made or give you the best results you've ever had.
Just
Like we
because
still have to bring our whole brain to the table.
you do, and just because you spend money does not guarantee you that you get some result. Just because you spend money on a high ticket doesn't mean you get a business. Just because you spend money on a template doesn't mean you get audience coming in. Like it, just because you spent money doesn't mean that you get the thing. But at some point, you do have to spend some money to get something. So,
Right.
but I like the thing that I keep coming back to in this season right now is, what is the rush? There is this hurriedness when somebody is less mature in their business journey, where they just want things really, really fast. And you and I both know, if I need something, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to look around. I'm going to ask my biz bestie. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
talk through it. I'm going to look at everything before I'm just like, I'm just gonna buy it, because then you buy one thing and then you buy another thing and you buy another thing, and now people have a bucket of courses that they never use, and on and on and on. Um and in our day, it was templates. Get my
Mm-hmm.
swipe files and my templates. Now it's get my custom GPT bot. Same
Yep.
horse, different color, and it's like before you know it, you've got a collection of bots that are poorly programmed and don't do what they need to do, but you spent money on them. And
Mm-hmm.
um and I just wonder how this new era, I mean, I'm sure it will still be a lot of repeat. It's just different tech tools. Now we have
Yeah. Well, and going back to your point about people being in a rush, I do think we have to give a little bit of grace to folks because since the pandemic, the sale, because I mean, pretty much a handful of sales tactics out there, right? Like sales is a psychology. There's not a new way
Yeah.
yet to hack a brain, right? So we kind of filter through different types of sales techniques based on what is working at that moment in time. And what I've seen since the pandemic is most people are selling based on cost of inaction, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you don't buy this thing right now, where are you going to be in 6 months?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you're going to be deeper in debt because you won't have made any money yet, or
Yeah.
you're not going to have your course online, or you're not going to have launched your small group program. And so invest this now because then in 6 months you'll be so much further ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, even the best program out there, first of all, requires you to implement, and life goes sideways on people all the time, and they don't account for that.
Huh.
And even perfect implementation doesn't account for the fact that your target client, your industry may have shifted as well.
The shift in industry has been incredible. And I'm so overusing this word this week. Fascinating. It has
I overuse that one too. And interesting. I say, oh, this is so
everything
interesting.
this week has been interesting and fascinating. And I'm like, oh God, I gotta stop saying that. And yeah, but there has been a shift in industry. And it's just the evolution of the ease at which we're able to assemble product, to get word out to our audiences. And so you can't do everything the same way. But yeah, there you and I both know that there is business is people. And if you're not building the relationships with people,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to build a sustainable long-term business. And it's
Right.
not dependent upon how fancy and pretty your website looks. We had a whole conversation about that. That's
Mm-hmm.
for a whole other YouTube video. And it's not dependent upon how much you spent on the program or the coach or the service provider.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not dependent upon how quickly you can get your reels out or your TikToks out or your YouTube videos out. Like I think there was an age in the Paleolithic era from way before, from whence we came, there was an age where speed was to your advantage, but not
Mm-hmm.
anymore. The market is so huge and it's so saturated. It's like, no, when you get there is when you get there, and that's the right time. It should be well positioned, it should be well thought out, and you should have relationships behind it. And if you don't have those things, it doesn't matter how beautiful your YouTube video is, it's not going to do anything.
Right. Well, and to some degree, you've got to put in the reps, right? You and me have talked about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that, right? Like we are in a creator economy. I don't discount that at all.
Yeah.
I think that there is money to be made as a creator even today. Even if yesterday you weren't a creator,
Mm-hmm.
start today and there's money to be made in this space. Totally
Yeah.
believe that. But what I see is somebody is trying to enter the market
Yeah.
where like Mr. Beast is now,
Yeah.
not recognizing that Mr. Beast got to where he is today because he churned out thousands of videos.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an endurance in it. And it goes back
Mm-hmm.
to the whole how much uninterrupted deep work time do you have? Because I guarantee you, Mr. Beast spent hours in deep work. I may not like him. I may not love all the things he does, but from like a business and a metrics perspective, I respect the shit out of what he does. And, but there is a long-term
Mm-hmm.
proposition in there where you do have to figure out, how do I get that in, not in 15-minute increments or an hour one day and then 4 hours another day and then 2 weeks off. And then you come back
Mm-hmm.
and these spurts and these starts and you're like, how come nothing's happening? There is something that you have to do. And unless you're made of money, which there are a very few people who are, and they will
Mm-hmm.
throw money at their problems and they can have other people do the sustained work. That's not true for most of us. We have to
Mm-hmm.
be in it. And most of us are our brands, which means you have to show up. You can't substitute someone else in there for you. So, yeah, I think like everything just continues to point back to the need for, when you are fully operational and you are fully booked, you do not have the luxury of, oh, I think I don't feel like working today, or I think I just need a
Yeah.
break today. It's like, yes, we all feel like we need breaks and you should take your breaks, But there are some days where it's like, maybe I'm not going to push myself so hard because like physically I'm having some like chronic health thing go flare up today. But you still have to deliver the thing to your client. So you're
Mm-hmm.
still going to sit down and you're still going to do the thing. You just might not do as much of it that day and you might make up for it on another day, but you're booked.
Right. No, when completely. And it's also one of those things where I don't know, personally, I don't know any woman who is aspiring to be Mr. Beast.
No.
Okay. Which is why I'm using him as an example,
Thank God.
right? Because then nobody I know will be like, hey, were you talking about me? But, you know, as a woman aspiring to be Mr. Beast, that's not even possible for me. I have two kids. He does not have children. He does not have a partner as far as any of us knows. He actually can lock himself in a basement for 18 hours, right? And just work. I don't have that choice. I have little people to get to and from school during the school year, little people who are here sharing space with me when it's not during the school year, right? I have a partner who works outside the home as well, and they're a commuter. So it's an extended period of day that I'm taking the caregiving responsibility, not to imagine, or not to mention that people expect to eat like multiple times a day, like
Right?
every day.
What a ridiculous request.
And I have cats, as you
Oh,
know.
you got a kitten now, and he's so cute. Yeah.
So, I remember when I used to hold myself to the standard of other people. And then once I recognized, oh,
Mhm.
well, they don't have kids yet. They don't have this. And it's not that you're using your kids as an excuse,
Mm-mm.
but you can't say we all have the same 40 hours in a week to work
No, no.
because
And,
we
and
don't.
and women typically have very different 40 hours from men. And that's just fact. It's just fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like because you and I have been on the back end in teams for other people, a lot of our newbies who are entering the space or who have just entered since COVID are not yet seasoned enough to understand how big teams are behind the scenes for some of these
Mm.
larger voices in the space. And that
Yeah.
there are so many who are high level thought leaders, they're on the TED stage, not TEDx, but
Mm-hmm.
TED. And you would think, oh, it's just them. And it's like, no, they have like a team behind the scenes. And
Mm-hmm.
they are definitely not doing that alone. And to get the level of quality and the finesse and the speed at which they put things out is directly correlated to how many people are helping them. And like, you and I can look at some of these people. And when we look at the output of what they're doing, we're like, oh, yeah, that's a team, because you would need people to write all of that copy. You would need people to edit that quickly. You would need people to, and that's a professional set. And like, there's all these things. And you're just like, they're not just like
Mm-hmm.
vlogging themselves. Like that is not what's
Right.
happening here, even
Yeah.
yeah, even their like casual social content. And you're like, oh, but they're taking a walk, whatever. It's like somebody told them what to say, somebody told them what they're recording this week. They didn't even have to think about it. And then when they go home, they've got a chef and they send out all their clothes for cleaning, and they've got a cleaning lady who comes over, and like they're not managing a household and doing all the things. And you have to start to realize like there is only so much you can do. And like this is why I think this might be the new hill I die on in the coming year, Tonya. I'm like, what is the rush? What is the rush? Like making money is not the same thing as pumping out a ton of content really quickly.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to answer the question, what is the rush? Because I think the rush comes when they've overinvested on the front end.
Mm.
And you and me, we have a mutual friend who I absolutely adore, Dusty. And one of the things is because Dusty is on Facebook like I'm on Facebook. You're not on Facebook, you're on Instagram and Threads. So, but on Facebook, Dusty's really good about sharing like old posts, but she has one about if you're brand new in business, I am not for you.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like people who are new in business, but because if you are brand new in business, you need to not be investing a single penny until you have reliable money coming in the door. And she talks about, she's like, you can get so many great classes like for free. You can watch YouTube videos. You can sometimes get a month free for LinkedIn videos. You can do this. And, she lists all these things that you can do for free. And then she goes, and if that's not enough, look at your community college,
Yeah.
25 bucks a unit. You can get some learning there, but you need to be bringing in money reliably before you start investing in $5 or $5,000, $10,000 offers, because if you don't do that, then you start in debt.
Yes. And I love that she talks about that regularly. It's one of my favorite things that Dusty says. Um, because I think what's happening is at the beginning, it is not glamorous. And it is not glamorous to have to learn what you didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't know, and to earn your stripes and to do the reps. And I think you and I have talked about this. We both, have agreed that sometimes having more capital than the average person to throw at your problems early on can start to become a bit of a detriment because you think you can move faster, but you still don't have the pipeline built.
Mm-hmm.
And a good coach will be like, let's like let's go back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a difficult thing to do because I think the entrepreneurial brain in general, like all of us, we would like our things 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Right,
You know,
right. And back to, if you're financially strapped because you pre-invested,
yeah.
it's harder to push pause and go, okay, let me be thoughtful and intentional about what I'm doing and where I'm going. I have a client and I'm really impressed by them. Like, this is not something I told them to do,
Mhm.
but they have an idea for an offer that potentially could help them scale their business,
Yeah.
and they're really excited about it. But when we were talking about it, they said, well, the first thing I'm going to need to do is like they were like, I'm not even ready to pilot. Like, I need a pre-pilot thing to really understand, first of all, does this thing I've been doing for several years one-on-one, would it even work in a group of 5? Like, is that even possible?
Mm.
And once I figure that out, then the next step would be to do a pilot and kind of same number of people, probably this time pay like, low price, and see, okay, can I sell it? Can they get the results? Can we do this? And then
Yeah.
actually do what most of us would consider like an intro offer.
Yeah.
But she knows that this is not going to actually be like regular price market ready, probably for 2 years, because she already is planning after each cohort goes through the time that she's going to need for iteration. How many people have you met, Mary, go into a pilot even accounting for iteration?
None, none. I was like, where did you find her? Pluto? Like, how do I find more of those?
Right, right. I was just like, oh, you mean I don't have to talk you out of jumping the gun? All
it,
right,
it's such a
I'm on board with
mature,
this.
well, it's such a mature perspective. And I think like through exhaustion and maturity experience over time, you realize like all these youngins coming into the space, it doesn't matter what actual age you are. If you're brand new, you are a youngin, and they're just like, I gotta do all the things, and we're just like, I feel like that character Emily from Devil Wears
Mhm.
Prada, where Anne Hathaway's character is like running around like crazy, like, am I did it? She's like, I don't know how to tell this to anybody who's not me, but you really need to
Yeah.
just calm down, and 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 you just get to this point where you're like, it doesn't actually literally pay you to hurry like that, and
Hmm.
the magic is in the iteration, and it
Hmm.
gives you time to like evaluate the market. And you and I've both seen drastic changes in the last few years where people had genuinely like amazing offers, but like the
Hmm.
market shifted and it's like, well, it doesn't fit the market anymore. Like you can't sell it like that. Either you have to change the price point, so maybe you got to
Hmm.
split up the whole program because people can only pay in chunks now, or just bringing in AI again, the
Hmm.
use of templates. It's like, Well, why templatize it where it's like you can learn how to train your Claude or your
Hmm.
ChatGPT bot. And so having somebody build something custom for you allows you to work more quickly instead of just having a template. And so like the methodology has changed. And you miss those moments when you're like
Hmm.
kind of desperate to just sell the thing. And money is a very alluring thing, but I'm just so much in the camp of like good clients who aren't going to
Hmm.
eat up extra resources because they become pain in the ass clients, PETA clients,
Hmm.
and like that long-term growth through that is the thing. Because if you just start taking anybody, now you've got extra overhead costs, which you and I have supported for other people, where it's like these are the wrong people, these people do not
Hmm.
belong in this program. Now we're spending like 10 times the number of hours on one-on-one customer service calls because they're unhappy and they don't know what they're doing, and you won't give them a refund. And it's like if you don't even go down that path, it might seem slower, but the health of that business is just completely different. It's completely different.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, I think it's important for us to say that neither of us believe that there is any harm or shame in having some kind of 9 to 5 job, whatever you want to
Oh,
call it,
totally.
on your route to success. Because I do think there is still in 2025 a lot of pressure to go all in on entrepreneurship. And I think it's really smart to dip your toe in the water. Like if you're able to, right, dip your toe in the water for a while before going all in on that, because not everybody's cut out for it.
No,
If everybody was, we would all be doing.
right. But I also think, like, to your point, the 9 to 5 job is not dirty. It doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
failed. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the real thing yet. But then when you add in, you build your thing starting as a side hustle and you grow from there, it starts to introduce for you personally the questions of capacity, because you and I both
Mm-hmm.
know it's like, well, I hate to break it to you, but once you quit that 9 to 5, you're still going to have the 9 to 5 plus what you were doing as a side hustle, except
Mm-hmm.
now it's just all you. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you reduce your hours. You
No.
you don't suddenly, like, I'm seeing all these ads come out right now selling the dream of like, here's how I made, double a 40-hour week in just 20 hours. And I was like, oh God, it's starting all over again.
Yeah.
And that is not true. I mean, maybe you can hack it in a way where it's like you hired a whole bunch of people, but now we're talking overhead. Now you've got to pay your overhead. And like that is not, it's not, nothing's magic.
No. No. Nothing is magic.
Well, I feel like I sounded like a jaded bitch, but well, oh well.
You know, it's hard to come from a place where we've seen it all before. I think part of it is just I have had to come to terms with the fact that I can't save people from themselves, right? Just because I see it clearly doesn't mean that they do. And even if they do, they may not see it the same way. Some people really do have to make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
I am somebody who had to get overworked to the point of exhaustion in order to fully even believe I had capacity limits, right? Because I thought I was invincible.
Not
And people
I,
would
not
tell me,
I.
yeah, people would tell me all the time, people who were longer business were like, Tonya, that's not sustainable. And I'm like, I've been working 7 days a week forever. Da, da, da. I worked 7 days a week when I had a job. I'll work 7 days a week now. I worked, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. then. I work 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. And they would say it over, yeah, but the girls are going to get older. Capacity is going to change, thought process. You may as well accept it now and build around it so that when you get there, you'll already have a system in place. And I was like, nah. And then I got there and I went, they told me so. So I'm not going to go complain to those people. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
I am going to take my tough medicine, suck it up, and I'm going to do what they were telling me 3 years ago I should have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I so
And
know. Hmm.
right. And so now I find myself being who they were, going, no, no, no. I know how this movie ends. Let me help you. And just recognizing, you know what, I had to learn by making my own mistakes too. It's okay for other people to have to learn that. But for anybody watching who doesn't want to learn from their own mistakes, take heed to our advice.
Yeah, it's I just think like you get down the road long enough, if you last long enough as we have, the crowd really starts to thin out.
Mm-hmm.
You see the people who've lasted as long as they have, who are ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
We both have seen. You and I are ahead of some people, and there are a lot of people who are ahead of us. And those people don't rush. They've made plenty of their own mistakes, but they're not like trying to suddenly rush into a market right now and make
Right.
something happen and in a way that is going to burn them out later, because it's like I've already been through burnout. I don't need to do that again. Like and you don't realize how much your experiences can train you in that. Like I was just thinking of like my old, corporate tech career, and like I was on call 24/7, 365. And, if something broke on the holidays, guess who got the call? It's me. And so I got trained to just sort of operate like that. I hated it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And in my own business, yeah, I am technically the one who's on call 24/7, 365.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also build things where it's like the sky isn't falling. None of us are chicken little just because something is down right now. Maybe like I would not build my business in such a fragile manner that I can't wait until Monday to fix that.
Right, right. Like I have a client who always says it's never fire, flood, or blood around here.
Yeah, no, it
Mm-hmm.
can't be. And because business is people, you will get the occasional people who are freaking out about something, and it's like I can't let your trauma response be the reason that I have to,
Mm-hmm.
say how high just because you're like jump for me right now. And it's like, no,
Right.
everything's okay. Anything that you can end up leading in your industry and leading with your audience, because they will feel that from you and respond accordingly and sort themselves. And the people who aren't okay with you running business sustainably are going to exit. And it's like, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? You are going to be 3 times more expensive to help than the people who should be here. And that's been a journey that has taken me, I don't know about you, but that has taken me a long time to get comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It has. But I'm glad I'm here.
Mm-hmm,
I really am.
mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you're here too, because I get to talk to you all the time. And
We should not let this go so long between this time and the next time.
the beginning of this year has been wild, though.
Well, you and me have both been busy. Like when everybody's talking about, I was in a room this week and people are talking about like business is so slow, sales are so down. And I'm just like, that is not my lived experience right now.
Mm-mm.
I have lived that experience,
Yes.
but it's not my lived experience right now. And it just makes for different perspectives for us. But yeah, we have not had time. Like I always say, like I barely have enough time to do what I am paid to do. I do not have time for volunteer work.
And I have been volunteering because I've been on the library.
Yes. Well, you know me, I started a nonprofit this year because I
Oh,
needed one more thing to do. Of
of course. It's the things we do, though,
course I
right?
did.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tonya. Next time we record, we're going to do it from my studio. I'm going to give you a tour.
I'll fly out.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, we gotta make that happen.
So good. Well, I mean, hints, if anybody's watching to the end of this, after I edit it, I'm very seriously now do like in planning mode for the live summit in spring 2026.
Ooh, can't wait to hear more.
So then really.
Come
Okay.
visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have summed up the juicy high points.
Yeah, I think we have.
Mhm. Okay. I will see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.